mention a few things about it only in the end. I've got most of my presentation, my PowerPoint presentation in English, but I will be making this presentation in Greek. I'll try to stick within the time frame as well. A few words on EFET, which means the National Hellenic Food Authority. It was established back in 1989, and the reason was that we wanted to come up with, I'm afraid there's no laser pointer, says the speaker. We were trying at the time to unify, to come up with a single control authority, because at the time there was a fragmented, multi-fragmented control field with respect to food in Greece. Ever since, there has been lots of progress. There are some cases where jurisdictions overlap, yes, but I do feel that things have hugely improved compared to what we set off with. So we are the Hellenic Food Authority, responsible also for the nutrition policy of Greece, which is, however, primarily in the hands of the Ministry of Health. We work together with the EU, and of course we work together with the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, which is an opinion-making instrument, and we need its opinions in order to be able to make our own efforts and undertake endeavors. So back in 1999, that's when it all started. The Ministry of Development was the first ministry under which which was responsible for EFET, and then we went to the Ministry of Development and Health, then Development and Food. So we went from one ministry to another. Apparently, we are a very hot topic. Probably that has to do with the fact that we care, and we do. EFET has multiple functions. We've got different directorates, we've got different disciplines represented, we've got people with an excellent scientific background. So what do we do? What's our jurisdiction? First of all, we conduct controls. I'll speed through that. Following primary production, so following manufacturing, we look into the food safety and security, and we also look into fraud, authenticity, and the overarching framework of food fraud, as it is called in the EU. We work together with the industry, of course, but we don't consider ourselves police officers or safeguards. We want to work with them in order to help them improve practices. We also want to help consumers so that they may develop knowledge that will allow them to take better decisions. And through this information, hopefully, consumers, indirectly as compared to what we do, will also leverage and put some pressure on industry so that they also improve their products. Towards the bottom, you see the official controls on foods, and this brings into play legislation as well. Of course, we have to work together with the Chemical Laboratory of Greece, but what we mainly aim to achieve is to make sure that Greek legislation is in line with European legislation. So what have we achieved since 2020? In 2020, as EFET, we conducted almost 7,500 official controls. Our target was 7,600, but unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we were unable to meet that target. The pandemic caused us to reevaluate a lot of things because many businesses shut down, and we tried to also be a bit more lenient when we went to companies that were already plagued with financial issues because of the pandemic. But we were close to our target, the one we had set. We also have the Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed. We call that RASF. And this is member states working together with the European Commission whenever there is an incident that needs to be reported or a milder event that takes place within a member state. The member state needs to inform the European Union, and then the European Union, the European Commission in particular, needs to notify of this event all other member states. So we've got notifications that are categorized, broken down into different groups based on their severity. Here you see 671 incidents concerning nuts and seeds, 506 fruits and vegetables, 347 dietetic foods, 342 poultry and poultry products, 325 feed, meaning cattle feed, 303 fish and fish products. As regards the risks entailed, the most important one was, of course, pathogenic microorganisms, some toxins, some sediments and residues of pesticides, foreign bodies, food contact materials, FCMs, and some divergencies. 5,635 controls regular, 516 were based on reports, complaints, and follow-ups, 1193. This was concerned events when we wanted to make sure that they had actually conformed to what we had asked them to do. This is a pie chart depending on the types of businesses. Of course, production amounts for the largest pie share. This is exactly what we're aiming at. We want to have a great differentiation. Here we see the food of animal origin that was the top concern, especially in manufacturing packaging enterprises. We've performed analysis, lab analysis, but I'm going to skip through that regarding salmonella, heavy metals, histamine in fish, several ingredients within foods, within baby foods, mycotoxins in dry nuts, GMOs in soya products, dioxins. These are always with respect to FCMs. Added sugars, for example, this is a case of fraud. Fraud with respect to tampering with honey. We also detected caramel color in honey. And the last was the presence of cow's milk in feta cheese. Of course, that was a very simple analysis as compared to the wonderful achievements that Mr. Thomaidis presented earlier. As the National Food Authority, we looked into salt and sodium reduction in various foods. We've handed out informative brochures, and I would like to highlight that along with WHO, with the World Health Organization, we're trying to accelerate our presence within the food industry so that anyone that deals with sodium and salt overall and has a problem. In the beginning, we started off by saying, bring the benchmarks now down. Now we have legislation, and we're trying to do the same with sodium. So this legislative limit for sodium is actually a target right now. It's an objective. We've started off a discourse, a dialogue, but we are taking it into consideration very seriously. We want to move in that direction. And the reason behind that is that, and I'm trying to phrase it politely here, efficacy of what has been done based on voluntary initiatives so far have not had a major impact on public health. Trans fatty acids, TFAS, have also been a concern. We've run tests and controls. We work together with various bodies. There is a legislation in place for TFAs, and we're trying to implement it. We're trying to provide the industry with an adaptation time period, a warm-up period. With respect to TFA intake in Greece, we know that this primarily focuses and concerns the various pastry dough products like pies or individual pies. What is, however, industrial, and I'm not talking about moms, mine for example is elderly, or grandmoms that made open up their own dough pastry. They created their own dough, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about industrial dough products. But now legislation is in place and we need to adopt it and enforce it. Another thing which is very important is the contribution to an initiative of the EU to help establish maximum amounts of vitamins and minerals in foods. Why is that? Because there is an increase in consumption and there is an increase in foods that are enriched, meaning that we potentially may need to set up thresholds to the extent where we can enrich with vitamins and minerals several foods, so as not to overcome the recommended daily dosage. And here you see how with the chemical laboratory, the General Chemical Laboratory of Greece and universities, we've worked together, we've created a task force that is in direct contact with the European Commission and the European Union as a whole. Then we've got food labeling. You're all very well aware of that. We all know where this is heading, what we're aiming to achieve, the problems with the Nutri-Score, which is quite popular and backed by many countries. We, however, have issues as Greece with the Nutri-Score. The position of the Greek government so far has been that it has to be a single color and not provide an overall evaluation. Nutri-Score is a multicolored code. Many countries claim that it should be mandatory. And of course, another thing that has to do with the front of pack is that we claim that we should exempt all single ingredients or like olive oil or protected denominations of origin and so on and so forth. 2024 probably will be dealing with this in a much more concrete way, because we will have received the outcome and results of many initiatives currently underway. And in my department, within the ministry, we've already filed a recommendation that we should focus on the outcomes of the various surveys and studies underway. And then we've got the EU Food Fraud Network. This began in 2013. Let me go back. Says the speaker. It started off in 2013 on a pan-European level, because we realized that it's not just about food safety and security, it also has to do with a financial crime and fraud. And this does not concern Greece alone, it has to do with many countries. You see that there are countries that are non-member states to the EU, like Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and so on and so forth. And this has to do with an exchange of information in between third countries and EU countries. Here I see no agronomists, I see no cattle breeders, I see only police, judiciary, and administrative authorities. You see at the bottom part of this triangle, because it's not a pyramid, we've got Interpol, Europol, and the European Food Network. So in this framework, in effect, we came up with a department. We created the Food Fraud Department, which was set up back in 2018. It is not as operational as I would have liked it to be, but we're still a work in progress. its duties and responsibilities focus primarily on financial fraud and crimes, has to do with labeling, authenticity, all those aspects. And then on the other hand, we also have some examples here: food controls on honey with respect to external agents such as sugar, caramel color. There have been fines issued on our behalf. Extra virgin olive oil is also concerned with the roots of the olive tree that Mr. Thomaidis mentioned. We came up with an understanding that 85% of the olive oil bought by Greek consumers is sold in bulk, which means that we know of somebody who knows of somebody who grows olive trees who has their olive oil pressed, which means that most Greek families acquire their olive oil that way, which means that we do not come into play in any function. And the main problems we detected with olive oil had to do with their origin. Most analyses were good, but with respect to how they are procured, then this was a problem. So extra virgin olive oil is something that is a concern for us. We will address it in a more extensive fashion, and this applies to honey as well as feta cheese. For example, is it an issue that has to do with cow's milk? Is it cow's milk from a different country? Is it a milk which is not milk but rather goat milk that comes from another country, and then it is inserted into making feta cheese, which is labeled as Greek? So we've got a variety of issues that make it a bit more difficult to discern what exactly fraud is. However, the objective remains the same. Consumers should not be victims of fraud. This is not something that has to do with authenticity, but rather something that has to do with controlled safety. It is the presence of ethylene oxide in sesame seeds from India. This was added in order to combat salmonella. It was used in many countries, banned in the EU. We were able to detect large quantities with this substance. We were able to withdraw large quantities from the market, but this is not something that has been disclosed to the grand public. SARS? Mr. Thomaidis was part of this working group, and all these people in this working group came up with two guides. One guide for the food industry, how they can alleviate risks caused by COVID-19 pandemic in order to make sure that the company survives. And here we've got the second guide when we were about to reopen mass catering and restoration, the guide to reboot mass restoration. Last but not least, how to eat safely at home, another initiative by EFET, the Hellenic Food Authority. These are all on our site and you can look them up. So in summary, we're trying to do a lot of things. We've got few means at our disposal. I'm hopeful that as representatives of the industry, you also feel that we're doing the right things to help healthy businesses progress and be just and fair and not just politically inclined. So that's what I had to say. Thank you very much for your attention.